Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Proving Grounds Open qualifiers. We got day one action here. I am Andrew Grapeshout, joined alongside my colleague Ben Hawk Hawkins. And Hawk, it is finally time to rejoice. Off season is over. The season has finally arrived, and we've got some really great amateur teams to highlight for you guys as we get ready for Proving Grounds to get underway.
Yes, sir. The offseason is over indeed. It's season 12. We're all 1 year older. We're all 1 year more experienced with League of Legends, but it also means it's time for another season and more awesome amateur matchups.
Absolutely. And we've got 16 amateur matchups to cover here in a row. If we take a look at the schedule that is set up for you guys, there are a lot of matchups going on, not just including the ones that are happening on this stream. Hawk, you see a lot of familiar teams here. Golden Guardians Academy, 100 Thieves next, Wildcard. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. We've got LCS affiliate teams. We've got tons of other teams. Some great matchups to cover today, specifically looking at our second stream as well. Make sure you guys check that out, Unified 2. Also, lots of team streams going on today. So any game that you want to watch, you can find it, of course, here on Unified Live. We will be covering Dinka versus Redbird Esports. Would be an absolutely phenomenal matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just taking a look at all these teams again. There's just so many really amazing organizations, amazing teams, amazing players that are coming through. And I think we want to take a closer look at, some of the other players and the teams, breaking that down, the numbers really quickly. I mean, there's 32 teams, I think 160 players coming through. So much amazing League of Legends players coming into this tournament and getting ready to, make their strides here in Proving Grounds.
Yeah, and I want to draw our attention to one quick stat that we see here. Out of the 160 total players, 57, over 1/3 of these players have never even played in a Tier 2 tournament. That is 57 rookies looking to prove themselves, of course, alongside the 24 returning PG players that made one of the main PG tournaments last year and the 16 pro experienced players. And then, of course, we've got an academy team. We've got LCS affiliated teams, returning amateur teams, and speaking of collegiate teams, Redbird Esports, one of the teams that we're going to be covering, is one of them here in this first game on the stream.
Yeah, and I'm really happy how we've seen so much more collegiate teams kind of come forward here in the amateur circuit. Last year we saw mostly teams like Maryville and Winthrop come in, but now teams like Redbird also have Bay State ranked up pretty high in the seedings as well, and 4 others on top of that. So there's just a lot of collegiate action coming through, and Redbird is one of the most storied organizations here in the collegiate scene, finishing in the quarterfinals of CLOL last year in 2021, and they're retaining a lot of their core players as we head into this new year.
Yeah, it's so exciting to see collegiate really coming together with the amateur. I mean, of course, we've seen collegiate teams around like Maryville in particular, who's really made a name for themselves. But Redbirds, Illinois State, they have been around, like you said, and they have actually been in some of these Tier 2 qualifiers, have not quite managed to break into the top level of amateur yet, but they are certainly hungry this year. They are looking to prove themselves. They're hoping to make the main tournament.
And their opponents today will be a different sort of name. We have the collegiate team, very official, and then we have Dinka, never homeless again. This team brought together by superstar top laner Dinka has a lot of familiar names. We see Captain Shrimps in the mid lane, as well as Eno and Duo King, bot lane that has been around the circuit for the last couple of years, as well as a very new jungler here, Sammy.
Yeah, this is such an interesting team and a lineup I'm personally really excited to be seeing. Captain Shrimps, as you mentioned, the mid laner for this team, he was the mid laner for C9 Amateur the entirety of last year and absolutely smurfed it throughout the entire year. And he's actually played with a lot of the players that are currently here. Eno and Duo King played alongside them in UPL Fall 2021 and actually took home the trophy on AoE Cope. Likewise, playing with Eno for a little bit on University of Winthrop as well. And then Sammy, as you mentioned, a pretty new face coming into the scene, but I actually reached out to Dinka to ask about the new jungler, and he sang very high praises of him, saying that he had a lot of great ideas and that he brings a lot to the team, and he actually reminds Dinka of a veteran player, which I think is absolutely incredible. So eyes going to be on the new and old faces present on this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's always really exciting to see a new young player come in. I mean, we have so many rookies, as you mentioned before, Hawk, and having a player get so much high praise from experienced players like Dinka is just really exciting to see. And I hope that Sammy will be able to really break through here in their first event of their careers, I'm assuming, having a lot of experience on a lot of the heavy solo queue junglers, champions like Evelynn and Karthus, but also, has experience on other champions like the Hecarim. So interesting to see how that one's going to match up alongside Captain Shrimps, who's another experienced veteran in this space. And talking about the mid jungle duo, we're going to have to go over to the other side as well, because we got GFP and Drew Dozer on the other side, and they are definitely one of the scariest mid jungles here in the collegiate scene.
Yeah, GFP and Drew Dozer are not a mid jungle to trifle with, as it were. Drew Dozer in particular has really made a name for himself in the mid lane here for Redbird Esports. So Sammy and Captain Shrimps are going to have their work cut out for them. Now, something I do want to kind of bring up is that both of these mid laners are notorious for being able to play a lot for their team. They're not necessarily the lane kingdom type of mid laners. They're very good about getting out on the map and getting advantages for their teams. So I'm really looking to see which one of these mid laners can kind of get the edge to be able to unlock themselves and be able to enable their jungler to really pop off in this game.
Yeah, and I want to touch on one word that you said there, Hawk, and that is unlock. In the new meta that has kind of started to formulate here in Season 12, we're seeing a heavy priority on champions in the mid lane that can push around and roam to kind of help out their teammates alongside their junglers. That's why we were talking about that mid jungle duo matchup that we have in this first game. Drew Dozer and Captain Shrimps, both players that play a lot of these push and roam champions. Captain Shrimp specifically has things like the Rumble and things like the Twisted Fate. So that's a really interesting point to put over onto that side. And on the other side, Drew Dozer as well has a lot of really interesting push and roam champions. Got to take a look at champions like that Corki, as well as a Vex that has recently come up in the meta.
Yeah, Vex, of course, the newest champion in the game, really actually going to be looking at priority on the Vex. It's not something that Captain Shrimps has played a ton of, at least on stage and in solo queue. And Vex has been known as a pretty strong champion, especially into certain matchups. She can just auto-push the wave and then leave. And if you're looking for a champion that can not only unlock herself, but deny the opponent from getting roams, Vex is a good one to do it on. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that one banned out. Speaking of bans as well, we've got to look at the support tempos over here. For Redbird. Zilean main, just absolutely notorious for this pick, considered to be the #2 Zilean in North America behind Bjergsen himself. So I would expect to see that one banned out. Usually he's not given it. However, maybe not. Maybe Dinka's feeling a little spicy.
I heard his thresh is pretty good, as we are about to head into the draft for game 1 of the Unified Proving Grounds Open Qualifier. We got Dinka, Never Homeless again on your blue side. Illinois State, also known as the Redbirds, on your red side. Right away, Hawk, expecting to see things like that Zilean potentially being targeted on the side of Dinka. Wouldn't be surprised to even see it taken away first.
Yeah, would not be surprised to see it banned out immediately. A lot of times the first ban you'll see is target bans, kind of hoping that the opposing team will maybe ban out some of the meta bans that you wanted to get rid of anyway. So, yep, there it is. Zilean is banned out. No surprise to I'd expect to see banned. That Vex that we just discussed, I would also not be surprised to see just generally strong power picks like maybe Jinx, Vayne, lots of good blind pickable bot laners that could be taken away, as well as potentially targeting more of these junglers, taking away some of their more carry-oriented options, so that way, if the mid lane does snowball in their favor, jungle doesn't get out of hand as well.
It's going to be Caitlyn, banned away by Illinois State University, one of the Eno's most played champions throughout his career. Definitely focusing a lot on these heavy priority bottom lanes, especially with these new teleport changes that have come into play. We'll see what Dinka decides to take away with this second ban. It will be that Corki, another Drew Dozer special to say the least, and another champion that has been impacted with the new preseason changes with that first strike.
Yeah, and honestly, this Corki ban tells me one thing. Dinka wants to fight, because Corki is a champion that is so good at just neutralizing mid lane and not really allowing you to play the game, and he can just choose when to fight because he takes package every 5 minutes and uses it through a team fight and kills everyone. So removing that champion signals to me that Captain Shrimps maybe is going to want to flex his muscles on Drew Dozer a little bit, or at least force him, dare him to take that matchup and see which one of them can come out on top in an all-out brawl.
Yeah, and some more focus to the mid lane as well. Captain Shrimps' Twisted Fate, another signature pickup, will not be on the table for this first game, and we're seeing a lot of, I would say, target bans so far. Looks like both of these teams don't really want to see their opponents on something that they are super comfortable with. We're going to continue with the mid lane priority with that Victor taken away as well. Yeah,
another low interaction ban banned out by Dinka, so I definitely expect to actually see a pretty aggressive composition come out just from the bans. I'm really excited to see what the last ban will be. I would expect maybe to see another ADC jungle ban come through here. Still lots of strong power picks available. And for Dinka themselves, looking at first picks, things like the Jinx has been super strong, at least in solo queue. Vayne, probably not first pickable, but it could definitely come out. It is something that I do believe, may have in his wheelhouse, as well as maybe just getting a comfort pick for Sammy. Of course, first game on stage, getting something comfortable oftentimes is the key to success, and there it is, Xin Zhao locked in.
Yep, Xin Zhao, a champion that can have a whole lot of impact in the early stages of the game and really matches kind of the bans that we're going through, Hawk. It looks like Dinka wants to play super proactively through their mid-jungle duo. We'll see what Captain Shrimps ends up locking maybe in this next rotation. On the other side, though, we see a familiar name up in the top side for ISU. It is Disconnector, a player who has played in the bot lane for the Redbirds in 2021 and has role swapped up to top to make way for Nuclear, a player who has also been a part of this Illinois State team to come back and fill in that bot lane position. Yeah,
and this is definitely a role swap we're going to want to keep our eyes on, because Disconnector is going to have his work cut out for him in game number 1. We've been saying the name all the time with the team, but Dinka is no slouch of a top laner. He's definitely had his way. He's been around the amateur scene for quite a while at this point. So they can actually guarantee him red side counterpick if they decided to go for it. However, support counterpick has definitely been influential so far. And speaking of picks that we were talking about, that Vex getting locked in for Drew Dozer. He's been spamming into solo queue. It's an extremely strong blind pick, can dictate a lot of matchups. And then the Trundle, traditional counter pick into the Xin Zhao, does well at mitigating a lot of that tempo that the pick can generate.
Yeah, and we're seeing the match here in the mid jungle. Captain Shrimps picking up that Syndra as well to go alongside Sammy's Xin Zhao. So not entirely sure how the interaction between Vex and Syndra works. I know that Vex definitely will be very good into Xin Zhao with all the dashes and slashes that he has in his kit. We'll see what Dinka, never homeless again, decides to round out their first rotation with, and it will be a Senna going over to Eno or potentially Duo King, who has played it quite a lot.
Yeah, this is actually really exciting to see come through. It is quite a comfort pick for Duo King, so I'd expect to see it in his hands. Now, what I'm not sure about is whether or not it'll be a fasting or a feasting Senna, as it were. And if, will maybe be on something a little bit more unorthodox with a fasting Senna, or if it'll just be with a traditional ADC. In regards to the Syndra matchup into the Vex, it generally does pretty well in early lane. You just can generally outdamage, match shove pretty well, and you've got the get off me with the Scatter of the Week as well, should Vex decide to go in for a little bit more of an aggressive trade. So I'm expecting Captain Shrimps to at least feel pretty comfortable in the early lane. Now, what will be really interesting, again, is William is able to get out of the lane. And once Vex hits level 6, that ultimate can definitely be a pretty potent gank and counter gank tool.
Yeah, and a lane that we might see these mid laners kind of focus towards is that bot lane. See ISU locking in that Jinx with their third pick of the draft. Going over towards Nuclear, a player who has very traditionally received a lot of resources as a member of the Redbirds lineup. Yeah. So getting a champion that really thrives on having a lot of gold and doing a lot of damage like this Jinx, especially into a lane like the Senna, which is generally considered to be a bit safer, definitely will be interesting. We're headed into the second phase of the bans here, already seeing targets towards the support pool. We're seeing Blitzcrank and Karma taken off the table, as well as that Veigar. I mean, Veigar support definitely could be a possibility here. I mean, we already see Captain Shrimps locking in that Syndra, so I guess that's where the target is going towards.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested to see the Veigar ban. I haven't seen Duo King playing too much of it, but I like it. A little bit of respect ban coming through. I mean, hey, it sucks to play Trundle into Veigar. I can tell you that firsthand, so maybe GFP not wanting to deal with that one. But I really like this Jinx fix into the Senna because the Jinx just signals to me that Nuclear is going to want to farm up and get those resources, as you mentioned. And with the Senna, it kind of plays into the mid-jungle sort of style that Dinka seems to be setting up with the Xin Zhao Syndra. Senna can also ult in post 6 and provide a lot of utility in the team fights as well as keeping the front line topped off. But Lulu getting locked in. This is a very strong combo. I'm sure we've been seeing it in our solo queue games over the preseason. Oh, yeah. Lulu, Jinx on the bottom side. If Nuclear gets the resources that he so desires, he is going to pop off in this game.
And right now, for the Redbirds, it looks like everything is kind of just focusing on this Jinx here for Nuclear. The last pick is going to be targeted towards that top side, but as we said, Disconnector, a player who has just recently role swapped, probably not going to expect to see too much of a strong side focus towards that lane. Instead, more likely to see something like a tank come through for Disconnector. Has also been pretty good at champions like the Gangplank, which has a whole lot of global presence. But on the other side, Dinka will lock in that Nautilus here for Duo King, as well as a Gangplank going over to Dinka, another champion that can have a whole lot of hard carry potential.
Yeah, I mean, Dinka has locked in a full-on level 6, we are going to fight you in the mid-game kind of composition. This is definitely the Gangplank, the Nautilus, they can get out and roam. The Gangplank Cannon Barrage coming down, it just does so much damage. But I do like the Graves last pick here for Disconnector. I mentioned that they might try to save him for counter pick. That way, you know, not only can he survive up against this prolific top laner in Dinka, but maybe even try to thrive, which would be quite a statement here in the first game of Proving Grounds 2022 Open Qualifiers, if I do say so myself. And just looking at these compositions holistically, again, Dinka, they're looking to fight you a level 6. Early Dragons, early Rift Heralds, they want to be there first, and they want to dare you to fight. Meanwhile, Redbirds, they've got a little bit more scaling options. This big ol' Jinx in the backline will be doing damage once she hits 3 items, and you've got a robust front line in the Trundle, Lulu in the back as well.
I mean, I just have to say, if you have a player who just switched from the bot lane to the top lane, maybe the best option is to put him on a marksman, and that's Graves coming through. I mean, it seems like pretty flawless logic for me. Sure, Graves hasn't been a bot laner in like, what, 7 years, but it doesn't really matter. A marksman is still a marksman. Going up against Dinka's Gangplank is actually a lot more of a resource-heavy champion than I might have expected coming out of Disconnector, and we'll see if he's able to pull it off. As we just take a look at these, you know, team compositions once more. We're going to get a nice little switch for you guys. Taking a look in a different format. Once again, Dinka on the blue side, Redbirds on the red. Reminder that this is just a best of 1. Got 5 rounds of Swiss action coming your way. You're going to need 3 wins in the bracket in order to qualify for the group stage, which starts on Wednesday. So getting this early win definitely puts you in a good position to continue to try and qualify for those playoffs, or, you know, continue to just get start on the right foot, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, getting started on the right foot is absolutely monumental for these teams. As you mentioned, 3 wins to get into the main stage. But not only that, 5 points towards main Proving Grounds per win that you get. So you're not done at 3 wins, and you're not done at 1 or 2 losses. Every game counts here in the Swiss bracket, in the open qualifiers. At the end of the day, though, only 16 teams can qualify. So if you want to prove yourself for the Proving Grounds, the time starts now.
Dinka being the higher seed in this sort of matchup, but it is just round 1 of this Swiss bracket, and a lot of things can change. Maybe upsets can happen. The Redbirds are a team that has a lot of previous synergy already built into it, so, you know, maybe see them with a little sort of an advantage as we are about to head into this game. Just really excited to see how this one matches up. Lots of important games going on all across Twitch. Remember to make sure to check out our sister's channel on Unified 2, as well as the multitude of team streams that are going on. But yeah, Hawk, I mean, Season 12 is about to start. I'm just so excited. This is the first competitive action that we have of the new year. I'm really glad to be here to cover it with you guys.
Absolutely. It's crazy to me. Let's take a step back for a moment that we are now in Season 12 here of League of Legends. I personally started playing in Season 6. I've been around for more than half the seasons at this point. It just feels crazy to me. And so either way, it's Season 12, like you said. It is so exciting. We have come such a long way, but the time is now. Proving Grounds 2020 starts here.
Teams are making their way down the rift. We're seeing an interesting 5-stack here for Redbirds to start things off. Taking a look at some of the different runes and itemization choices here. Lethal tempo here on GFP, but I might have to start to focus on something because we got a 5-stack here in the bot lane.
They're coming. Oh, the ward. Okay, Duo King spotted.
Blind hook. No, just going to leave one landing here onto tempos, but look at the fear coming out of Drew Dozer, and now Dinka is forced to run for the hills. Flashes forward is coming from the Redbirds team. One more rocket would have taken down Sammy, but it will not be enough damage to do the deed. Oh, wait, look at the fear. Oh, taking a look. Eno.
Oh, my word. Eno gets taken down here for first blood. The electrocute proc comes down. Drew Dozer picks it up. I said that Dinka, no home again, would want to fight, but they come out on the wrong side of it. Redbird Esports picking up the first one of the tournament.
And who better than in the hands of Drew Dozer, getting an extra Sapphire Crystal to just add to the lane priority that he will be able to have in this matchup on the Vex. Going to continue to push these waves in. As you take a look around the map, going to be topside starts for both of these junglers, as they will both be focusing down towards the bottom lane.
Yeah, unsurprising. I mean, flash is blown basically everywhere. Captain Shrimps is the only one with the flash advantage in this game. Everybody else either blew it or both the top laners still have it. So unsurprisingly, plays are going to want to be made here on this bottom side. However, you know, coming back to lane here, Drew Dozer with that extra Sapphire Crystal, that's even more potential wave shove that he will have. More mana to provide himself, and also building towards that lost chapter even quickly will... more quickly, I should say, will be absolutely massive. So with a 500 gold lead, Redbird Esports and Drew Dozer in particular, we were highlighting this mid lane, are feeling good.
Look at that jungle pathing here from GFP, going from red buff to Gromp, I think. This is not super expected. It's just going to be the red-blue Gromp here, trying to get that early level 3. Taking a look down towards the bottom lane, it will be a farming Senna here for Eno, who is currently under the name Blue Skies here on the live client, which is to be expected because of that Nautilus, but interesting to bring up nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually wonder if GFP will be looking for a potential invade on the red buff. Remember, Sammy No Flash and Trundle does pretty well, but no, it looks like he's going to try to go to Captain Shrimps as he tries to crash the wave. He just used the Scatter of the Weak, so Captain Shrimps needs to be careful. His jungler is nearby.
Sammy is in the area as well. Pillar will kind of just knock Captain Shrimps back a little bit, so not, you know, enough to really be super dangerous in terms of a kill going down, but still some added priority going over to the Redbirds, who are starting off this game very, very well.
Yeah, definitely. Just a little bit of extra pressure, like you said. Shrimp Captain needs to think twice about stepping up in the mid lane here against the Redbirds. So just getting zoned off and preventing the wave from getting crashed in is pretty big for Drew Dozer in this matchup. However, they did see the Trundle go topside, so now it's Sammy's turn to potentially make a play while the bot lane tries to crash their wave.
See Sammy just kind of waiting around right now. Duo King might try to look for an aggressive hook, but it looks like the Redbirds know better than to continue to push forward. Going to just back away for now, prevent that gank from coming through. Still see a whole lot of focus now towards that bottom lane, and already, Hawk, these junglers are just being very, very aggressive to start things off.
Yeah, I mean, definitely an aggressive kind of game. And it's to be expected when you've got Xin Zhao in the game, I would say, wanting to get him off to an early start. And Trundle was picked specifically to counter it. It does well into the matchup for a reason. He's just able to outduel you, outsustain you, outclear you a lot of the time. The only thing that Xin Zhao really has over him is still that playmaking potential. So GFP, unsurprisingly, pathing in such a way to keep his laners safe and prevent Dinka from getting priority.
Absolutely, and taking a look now towards this mid lane, GFP and Tempos. Going for a little bit of a roam. Tempos on the Lulu. Not necessarily a super hard engaged support, but they're going to try to make it work here against Captain Shrimp. That's a much better pillar coming out from GFP, forcing that flash.
Yeah, really nicely done right there. Pretty low commit gank. It was just Tempos coming up on the bot roam, as well as GFP throwing in the pillar, forcing the flash out from Captain Shrimps. And Captain Shrimps is already teleported back to lane 1, so that little bit of health advantage, even so, will be doing even more work. So Captain Shrimps needs to be careful in this one, and a nice little freeze, not quite from Nuclear, but just a good spot to be in once again if you are the side of Redbird Esports here in this early game.
Interestingly enough, though, Hawk, taking a look at the gold, it looks like Dinka has kind of found their way back into this one. Gold is dead even, despite that first blood going down early on into the game. Taking a look around the map, definitely towards that mid and bot lane, Captain Shrimps and Eno have put up pretty solid CS leads for themselves, but Drew Dozer still the one on top with that first blood in the pocket.
Yeah, also a camp lead here for Sammy. Of course, we saw GFP kind of take an unorthodox path. He did the red-blue Gromp, then went back up to his Raptors, Wolves, ganked mid twice in there. So a lot of time sort of spent not farming, which it did get a good advantage for his team in getting the flash off of Captain Shrimp. So we'll have to see how that one's able to be punished, because Sammy is going to feel pretty good about the camps he's been able to acquire in this one.
Here at the 5-minute mark, will be an Ocean Dragon spawning here for this first game, and it looks like GFP is going to be the one to start it up first in this one. Sammy going for a bit of an invade as well. Bit of a quieter start than I might have expected here, Hawk, but with the ultimates coming up online for a lot of these players in just a couple of minutes, might turn on its head rather quick.
Yeah, ultimates are definitely what I'm looking for as well, but I like this play from GFP. Again, seems like he's playing a lot more for the team than he is for his own selfish devices, as we saw Sammy take away his Raptor camp, but getting the Dragon Force team with the priority that they had down there on the bottom side, an Ocean Dragon first, no less, feels pretty good. The extra sustain in lane will particularly go a long way for Drew Dozer and Disconnector and these more pokey style sort of lanes. Disconnector is not really zoned off the wave. He had to back up for a second while Sammy was on the top side, but he's able to come back and pick up most of these minions, at least the XP on those, which is pretty big for his matchup.
And it's an interesting matchup to watch out for. Dinka, one of the players that have a lot of experience up here in the top lane, actually recently played in Proving Grounds as a part of 100 Thieves Next during that strange substitute situation that happened around Worlds. On the other side, going up against Disconnector, a role-swapping top laner. And right now the matchup is kind of looking as expected. Dinka with about a 10 CS advantage. Interestingly enough, though, Disconnector running the exhaust and already has used it, which means that some pretty spicy trades have already erupted up there.
Yeah, and this actually was something we were talking about before getting on stream, Grapes, was the changes to teleport and how that would affect solo lane summoner spell choices. And it seems that Disconnector has seen the light on the exhaust top lane. I'm not going to come out and say that it's better per se, but if you're looking to avoid dives from a Xin Zhao GP, maybe even a Nautilus roaming up there, an exhaust is definitely a good way to do it. And not much of a 1-3-1 type composition here for Dinka coming through. So it's not like you really need to match in all three lanes throughout the game. You can just go catch the waves when you're needed, meaning that teleport value goes down pretty significantly as Captain Shrimps. Oh, Pillar barely going to go wide. GFP not able to land that one again.
Yeah, the Trundle Pillar is a interesting hitbox to say the least. It's very, very fine lines between knocking somebody in the right direction or the wrong direction. And it looks like Captain Shrimps have gotten the better end of the trade 2 times out of 3 so far, and has kind of been left pretty untouched here, has developed a nice little CS lead for himself, and maybe we'll look to continue to impact around the map as he goes for a recall here.
Yeah, absolutely. GFP just hitting the level 6 at about 8 minutes. Slightly later than maybe he was hoping for, but again, he's playing more for the team as we do see a bit of a trade on the bottom side.
Yeah. Nuclear chunked out a little bit. Doesn't look like, and Duo King have the damage to really take down any of these players just yet. Tempos and Nuclear are sitting at pretty low mana pools for now, but doesn't look like anybody really is in the area for Dinka to try and capitalize on that. But taking a look at the gold now, Dinka now developing a 1K gold lead. So it looks like slowly but surely the higher seeded team at the moment is continuing to just build on these lane leads that they have.
Yeah, I mean, it's just coming down to the CS everywhere. In jungle and all three lanes, there is a CS lead here for the side of Dinka, and that is contributing immensely to this gold lead, despite the unfortunate first blood that went down. So, I mean, 20 CS in top lane, 20 CS in mid, this is absolutely monumental. And of course, we were sort of discussing the two, I feel like, most notable players coming in here for Dinka. Where are their solo laners? As Captain Shrimp still no flash.
Yep, Shadow Surge forward. Captain Shrimp's in a bit of trouble. Uses the Unleash power onto Drew Dozer, but only chunking him into about half HP.
Flash.
GFT looking to go forward, but here comes Sammy. Gonna try and make this a bit of a trade. Cannon Barrage coming through as well, and Captain Shrimps stays alive as Sammy will get the final hit on the GFP.
Yeah, GFP barely not able to finish that one off. The timing was just a bit off on it. Another pillar kind of going wide there for GFP. Drew Dozer goes in, does the full combo, but not really able to find enough damage, and the Trundle not super in range by the time it goes down. So we'll see. Scatter the Weak comes through. Drew Dozer takes the opportunity, finds the fear, but look at the pillar. Not really able to slow down Captain Shrimps at all, just paths around it with the phase rush. The flash comes through from GFP to try to find the slow, but it's not enough, and he gets taken down in the end. So nicely done by Captain Shrimps to avoid the gank. An unfortunate GFP just barely not having the damage, just barely not having the timing to find that one. And in a game of inches like League of Legends, it is Dinka coming out on top.
And you might not be able to teleport to, some of the other lanes here in this game, but Dinka still had an impact on the map in the top side, using that Cannon Barrage, a global ultimate that was available for their team to try and slow down GFP and end up taking him down. So just another instance of the preseason having a sort of impact here in this game already. Going to see probably a lot more Gangplank so far in the rest of this season with the amount of power that it has on the global scale.
Yeah, I mean, Gangplank just always provides so much. He's a weak side top laner that is also a carry, and it's the two top laners that kind of fit into that bin are generally Kale and GP, but Kale is a lot more high risk, high reward, hyperscaling, whereas GP, with that global ultimate that you mentioned, can be useful in all stages of the game. Once that ultimate comes through, without having to actually attend any fights, he can participate, and that is such a big boon, as you mentioned.
Cloud Dragon just about to spawn here for this side. Oh, sorry, it's a Hextech Drake on the side of the Redbirds. Looks like they have the priority over it at the moment. And we see, ISU going for a lot of these early aggressive plays here with GFP. It just looks like they haven't really been paying off so far.
Yeah, I mean, they spent so much attention on Captain Shrimps, but they were never actually able to get a kill, and now his flash is back up, and not only that, you actually gave over a return kill before the flash comes up. Definitely not what you want to see. Now, it does feel good for them. They are going to be able to take down this Hextech Dragon off of the reset coming through from the mid-jungle duo of Dinka, as well as no Cannon Barrage being available, or Unleash Teleport, so no global advantage for the side. So they do still maintain their dragon stacking advantage, but we did also see Sammy take the Rift Herald a few minutes ago. I'd expect that one to maybe be dropped towards the Syndra to funnel in some gold, and most importantly, keep this Vex down, because Drew Dozer, yeah, he had first blood coming into lane, but being down 20 CS is definitely not where he wanted to be.
Yeah, definitely not. Oh, taking a look at the bottom side. Duo King just barely missing out on that hook. Nuclear, though, taking a decent amount of his HP. We see the junglers in the area around the bottom side, as well as Captain Shrimps, who's beginning the roam. GFP is going to be the one who gets here first. The hook is going to land onto Nuclear instead. Donnie Shadow as well. The shields will not be enough, as Eno will pick up the kill onto Nuclear. Captain Shrimps looking here. Looks like Dinka wants to go for the dive. Tempos has to flash away, but now GFP is stuck under the tower in a 1v4. One more auto will do, and a double kill unofficially going over to Eno. On the other side, Drew Dozer and Disconnector were able to take down Dinka, but at the end of the day, it is a 2-for-1 with plates going down in the bottom side.
Dinka's typing more than all chat right now. 2-for-1. It doesn't matter. We're going to get your turret. Whatever. But yeah, I mean, a really good counter gank coming out on the bottom side here from the side of Dinka. They're able to get down there with their mid laner and their jungler first. So despite the play being proactively made by the side of Redbird, it doesn't end up working out. Unfortunately, Dinka does get a little bit of a mid lane roam on him. He's almost able to take down Disconnector, but with the exhaust, he stays alive, and just the burst from Vex is massive, taking him down. So at least a return kill as the Vexel does land, but no, will not be followed through by Drew Dozer and Captain Shrimps. Will just manage to stay alive.
And that was an interesting play that Redbirds decided to make. Instead of trying to focus all their resources towards one side of the map, tried to do something bot and something top.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it didn't end up really working out for them too well. It's a very high risk, high reward sort of situation, and it looks like Dinka was able to punish that.
Yeah, and maybe that's some of the miscoordination that we are going to see from this Illinois State lineup. Of course, all these players have played on this roster at some point or another, but remember, Disconnector, role swapping from top lane, and both Nuclear and Tempos did not play on this roster last year. They were both elsewhere and now have returned this year. So it's actually been quite a while since these 5 players have played together in this way, and Disconnector has never been the top laner for this team. So first game together on stage, we are likely to see disconnects like that. However, it is a costly one, as Dinka finds themselves with a 4,000 gold lead actually at 14 minutes, mostly off the back again of farm and tower plates that have been taken. Yeah,
it really kind of just crept up on you. As the turret plates fell, you can see across the map that a majority of them have been already taken by the side of Dinka, never homeless again. And with that, as you said, Hawk, 4,000 gold lead, even though the kill lead is not really at that much of a difference. It's literally just 3-2. Yeah, you can see that across the plates and across the CS numbers as well. Look at Captain Shrimps here, 32 CS ahead.
Yeah, and something I kind of want to point out is we've seen a lot of proactivity from both junglers, right? We've seen GFP particularly sending a lot of attention down towards the mid lane, where Sammy has been doing a lot of hovering lanes, just forcing people to back up as the hook goes wide there, but forcing the laners to back up and sack waves without actually having to commit to a gank. So it means he can farm his camps at the same time, and then the Redbirds also have to respect the threat of a dive. So it's sort of a 2-for-1 farm advantage, whereas GFP has been committing a lot more on his ganks, and not being able to find a kill advantage is where so much of this gold lead, I feel like, comes from, as we are seeing a dive.
Yeah, a bit of a dive up here in the top side. GFP was here to try and provide some reinforcements, but it does not look like it will be enough. Eno does get out with very, very little HP, and Sammy just going to pop that Crescent Guard and get out pretty safely for now, but here comes Nuclear and Tempos looking to make a play on the other side. Sammy will fall, and now Duo King has to run away. Nuclear has the reset, has the extra attack speed. Duo King misses the hook, which means he will go down very, very shortly. The zap will be the one to finish the job, as Nuclear, the carry here for Redbird, getting a couple of early kills.
Yeah, beautifully done right here. Redbirds, just as we were saying that they were starting to fall behind, they strike right back. This time, the proactive play is made by Dinka, but they just take a little too long on the dive. And most importantly, Sammy took an extra tower shot and got very low. So Nuclear is able to pick up a reset on the assist, and then he chases down the Nautilus with the help of the lethal tempo, extra range, and attack speed, and the hook going wide on the terrain. Certainly not helping out either. So Jinx now picks up a kill. Nuclear, we mentioned, if he's able to come online and get the resources that this team likes to put into him, he could be a massive carry threat. So that one definitely feels good if you are an ISU fan.
Already seen that Gale Force come into play for Nuclear, knowing that there's a lot of potential lockdown here with Duo King and Captain Shrimps. Wants to just try to stay as safe as possible, try and deal out as much damage while staying alive in that case. It will be a Cloud Soul across the map as that third Drake has just spawned. GFP and Sammy both are in the area, but I think Dinka are going to be the team that has the priority.
Grapes, I have a question for you. Do you like to dance? Because they're doing the dragon dance right now, as it is Dinka strong-arming their way into the river. Dragon already down to half HP, but it does seem like Redbirds are setting up a contest.
Yeah, Duo King is just doing so much work to zone out GFP. Can he get into the pit? The answer is no. Sammy will pick up the Drake, but Drew Dozer is into the middle of the enemy teams. Captain Shrimps takes down Nuclear almost instantaneously, though. And now Dinka is the team that is trying to do the work. Taking down Tempos is Sammy. GFP will get a trade back, but now it's a 1v2. Can GFP do anything? Just being a little bit of a trundle, not going to be enough, as Duo King will be the one to land the final blow. Drew Dozer is running in the very, very wrong direction, and Captain Shrimps will finish the job with the scatter.
Oh, it looked good at first, but Drew Dozer finding the multi-man fear off the back of the Vex ultimate, but Sammy in the middle splits it up with the Crescent Guard, and it's just impossible to walk through this Xin Zhao at the end of it all. It is Dinka coming out alive. Nice job here from Duo King zoning out the team, and again, Sammy, he hits the smite and then gets into the middle of everybody. Crescent Guard just zoning out the DPS. And as soon as the fight gets messy, it just favors this Dinka composition so heavily. The Senna can run people down. The Xin Zhao can run people down. And once the Vex Burst is gone, there's not really too much left for Drew Dozer to do. So he runs away towards the enemy base. He gets taken down as well. A beautiful fight coming through from the side of Dinka. They stop the dragon stacking, and they put themselves firmly in control of this game.
Yeah, and that was kind of what secures the lead that's been happening. I mean, it looked like Dinka was pretty far ahead, but that dragon fight really confirms it. Taking a look at the gold, it's just been a very, very steady link up for Dinka, never homeless again, ever since that first blood ended up going down. And they're going to look to try to push their advantages more and more as they head later on into this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And we mentioned how this team wants to get a big lead early, and they've managed to do it. Again, it's only 8-5 in kills, but this team has just laned so effectively. They've managed to find advantages everywhere, and that seems like it's going to be one of the strengths of this Dinka team is, although there's some new faces, some faces we haven't seen in Amateur for a little while, they're all very experienced players in their own right. I mean, Duo King has played in Academy 2 years ago, as we do see a fight breaking out in the river.
Yeah, speaking of which, Drew Dozer doesn't have the ultimate. Now is just trapped between everybody on the side of Dinka. It will be the namesake of the team taking him down. And look at Tempos. Didn't even have a chance to do anything about that. Captain Shrimps with the one shot. Now 2 more kills going over to Dinka.
Yeah, Captain Shrimp sitting at 3-0 and 2 as a stun lands.
Nuclear just have to flash away here, and it doesn't look like they will be able to defend this mid lane turret. Dinka never homeless again, going across the map and making their homes all over Summoner's Rift.
Yeah, just brute force. Redbirds, they think that they can test the river. They can contest the river, but it is Dinka saying no. Captain Shrimps, he's about to show them the meaning of skill button. 3-0 and 2 on the Syndra. We saw what he could do to the poor Lulu, and we know he's probably got a fat stack of gold in his back pocket if we can toggle to it briefly. I mean, just absolutely massive here on the Syndra, and as well, Eno on this Senna, just looking so incredibly strong. And it's actually Dinka that is the most fed on this team. 186 farm, 4,000 gold to his name, as well as taking towers. Just the carries are online here for Dinka, as we have gold leads everywhere, in every lane.
Yeah, it kind of creeps up on you as a gangplank, you know, with all of the extra gold that you get through the Silver Serpents. Dinka already completing 2 items, working towards that third with the Crit Cloak and the Longsword already in inventory. And so just looks like there are threats all over the map for this team. And for ISU, there's not too much that you can look at and say, okay, this is a clear win condition. You have the potential for Drew Dozer to maybe come in and one-shot some of the carries, but we've seen so far in this game hasn't had enough damage to really do that just yet.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Dozer, I feel like, has been playing the team fights fine. He's getting in there, he's finding big fears, he's doing big damage, but the fact of the matter is, Vex can't kill everybody, at least not yet. You need damage from somewhere else, and we've not really seen Nuclear, Disconnector, or GFP be able to really step up past this Xin Zhao, past this Nautilus, to help their mid laner, and Nuclear is well off of the item spikes that he needs. He finally has completed the rapid fire cannon, but he is still a full Infinity Edge away from being able to do real damage. And with Baron on the map, with Dragon spawning in 40 seconds, you have to kind of figure out how much you can give up without losing the game if you're Redbirds while you wait for those item spikes to come online. But knowing Dinka, they're not going to take their foot off the gas pedal.
Absolutely not. And it looks like the focus pings going towards that dragon once again. Cloud Drakes are just so important on this Dinka roster, especially when you consider that Cannon Barrage being one of the most impactful ultimates of the game. Getting that reduced cooldown off of that, definitely very, very useful. 10 seconds until that ends up spawning, and it looks like they're just going to have full control.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not expect a contest to come through on this one. This is the big boon of Redbirds having taken the first two dragons, means that the threat of soul stacking from Dinka is at least 10 minutes away. So it won't be until 32 minutes when that might come through. And it's also a Cloud Dragon, as we do see a little bit of a threat around Baron. I would not expect this to be too serious of a threat. It's just a prank. It's just a prank. They're going to walk away.
I got scared for a little bit.
Yeah. However, getting Scuttle there is actually pretty big. It denies free Baron setup for the side of Dinka, but Nuclear is in danger.
Oh, Duo King wants it, just using the dredge line to try and get closer and closer. The Cannon Barrage does a decent amount of damage, but there's no follow-up from the rest of his team. It looks like Nuclear will get out with his life, sans that Gale Force. It's a very, very tense situation here for Redbirds. They know that one single mistake could mean Baron, could mean the game.
Yeah, Nuclear should be counting his blessings. I actually wonder if Duo King maybe could have gone for the flash depth charge. It was very close to being in range if he was able to flash over those choppers. In the end, it is Dinka deciding not to go for it, which I don't fault them for. I mean, you don't need to blow all your cooldowns right now. If you're just going to siege onto mid lane with the Herald, you're still going to get something out of this. Eno is hitting from very far away already. Probably has a good amount of stacks on this Senna. If we can maybe get a quick stack check to see where he's at. But that mid lane tier 2 does go down. That is another 600 gold into the back pockets of this team. 67 Senna stacks already at 23.5 minutes for, remember, a feasting Senna. This was not a fasting Senna. That is quite a few stacks. See an ult.
Could be the target here of this play. Drew Dozer has the wild growth on him and it's staying alive. Eno is about to go down. Final chomp will come through from GFP, but look at the teleports into the backside. Dinka is doing so much work, already taking down Nuclear, and Drew Dozer will soon to follow. Disconnector now has to try and get away from the rest of this Dinka squad. It's a 2 for 1 so far, and Sammy is looking for more onto GFP. Gonna try to flash forward, land the slow, land the knockup, Conqueror proc, Captain Shrimps here as well. The Unleashed Power will finish the job as the mid laner for Dinka, Never Homeless again, is now unstoppable.
Redbirds, they pull the trigger, they find the shutdown onto the enemy AD carry, but it's just not enough to counter-engage with the Unleashed teleport from Captain Shrimps, and the damage over the top manages to win them the fight. They will get the Baron as their reward. It's going to be a 10,000 gold lead when it's all said and done for the side of Dinka, Never Homeless again, and the higher seed is making a statement here in Game 1.
Absolutely, and it was kind of close towards the beginning, Hawk, but as you said, it just has felt ever since, the first couple of minutes of this game, the Dinka has just, grasped more and more control over this game. Baron finally goes down. Let's take a look at this replay again, because Drew Dozer got a pretty solid engage.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the side of Redbirds. They're calling to try to punish the reset that came through from Dinka. Captain Shrimps went top lane. Sammy wasn't actually present for the start of the fight, so a beautiful ultimate from Drew Dozer comes through, and they almost one-shot the Senna. Eventually, GFP takes him down. Unfortunately, they just didn't really have anything left in the tank, so once the side of Dinka came around, they're able to take down the kills. They're able to then chase down the Trundle as well, which guarantees the Baron on the back side. So Dinka, they play it right. They find the kills. They find the objective. And now, if we thought the game was hard for Redbird already, this Senna hitting from so far away, Baron minions online. The siege is now.
It's going to be a tough task here for the Redbirds. Nuclear still really not at that third item just yet. They have to try to find some sort of pick, but if you think about it, Hawk, that was a pretty solid engage for the Redbirds.
Yeah.
And it really didn't end up working out for them. So we'll see if they're will be able to maybe save this game for themselves here, as there's still about 2 minutes of this Baron power play still available. Disconnector did get one of the objective bounties down in the bottom side. Going to trade that for the top lane inner turret, as the rest of Dinka is continuing to push into the Redbird base.
Yeah, nice trade right there from Disconnector. Of course, objective bounties are one of the new mechanics for Season 12. It's a new comeback mechanic that was implemented. Whenever the team that is significantly behind takes any objective, they do get that bonus gold, as the dredge line barely goes wide here. We might see a bit more of a fight. Duo King. Nope,
He's
just
tanky.
getting chunked. Yeah, he's a tanky little Nautilus right there, but yeah, I mean, so nicely done by Disconnector to at least pick up something for his team, because clearly it is incredibly difficult to defend even with him here. And I want to, again, talk about that last fight, because like you said, it was a nice engage that came through from Redbirds, but it was quite frankly just gold at work in that fight. Dinka is just far enough ahead where they weren't quite able to one-shot the Senna.
Oh!
And then they turn the fight! Wait! Drudo's is gone!
What?
Skill button!
Oh my goodness. From a mile away, it seems like Captain Shrimp's assassinating Drew Dozer. What on earth just happened? Now a 4v5 for the next 35 seconds,
line.
and now Dinka wants to go forward. Doesn't look like Duo King's going to do too much after that hook, but the first inhibitor's already gone down. The one on the top side is soon to follow. Duo King landing another hook, just continuing to pressure out the Redbirds. Still fighting 4v5. Scatter lands onto 2, but it doesn't look like Dinka, never hopeless again, wants to continue the push. Instead, they'll back out, take that victory with 2 inhibitors down.
Yeah, Captain Shrimps, we said he was the player to watch on this Dinka No Homeless, Never Homeless Again roster. And he's showing why. 6-0 to the unleashed power, taking down the Yordle in her own base. Soul point here now going to be picked up by the side of Dinka. This is a statement game 1, Graves, because I know we both had a couple of questions about this roster coming in. We knew how good all these players were individually, but they were all players that, you know, weren't really in the scene quite as heavily last year, or they were doing other stuff last year. So we weren't sure, A, how they would play here in Season 12, and B, how they would play together. And in game number 1, up against a strong Redbirds lineup, they have looked phenomenal.
I mean, doing this well against one of the best collegiate programs in the country definitely is a bit of a statement. Of course, Dinka being the higher seed, maybe expected to take this game, but it's impressive nonetheless. I mean, you take a look all across the map. Every player has really contributed to this win, being not one person carrying the game. Sure, Captain Shrimp is 6-0-2, but it looks like everybody is really doing their part here.
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, no one has really dropped the ball. I feel like all these players have gotten to flex their muscles in one place or another. And just, let's look at the items here. Dinka himself, 4 items on Gangplank. That is an Infinity Edge in inventory. We've also got 2.5 on Captain Shrimps with a stopwatch to keep him alive. Likewise, Sammy, 2.5 with a stopwatch. 3 on the Senna. And I'm sure the souls are even higher than we last saw. Just an absolutely monumental performance across the board.
It's looking harder and harder for Redbirds to try and come back into this game, facing about an 11,000 gold lead, as Dinka Never Homeless again headed towards the last chunk of the Illinois State base down to this bottom inhibitor turret. They just continue to have the push, continue to have the wave clear. In just a little bit, Redbirds are going to have to make a move or the game will end.
Yeah, super minions are starting to hike their way into the base now. We see that mid wave crashing, and we see that top wave crashing. They've got to pull the trigger before triple inhib goes down. Baron in a minute 10. Where's the fight gonna start?
Looks like they're just going to sack this, so that's triple inhibitor. Going over to Dinka Never Homeless again, and
Dinka's
they have to be very, very careful at this point. Dinka continuing to push forward. Duo King barely missing out on that dredge line. Very, very tense situation right now. Redbirds, the tall clock is continuing to tick. They have to find a pick find. Something happens before they just get absolutely one-shot. The barrel nearly taking down Tempos instantly. Now it's time for Drew Dozer to try to go in. They do get a bit of a stun to the Captain Shrimps. They force the stopwatch out, but GFP has already gone down, and so has Drew Dozer. A double kill for Dinka, and the rest of the kills are coming through. Disconnector and Tempos will watch from their base as their Nexus falls, and Dinka Never Homeless again. They're going to find a home in the heart of North America. They're going to take down the Nexus and take this first game of the Unified Proving Grounds Qualifier.
Dinka never homeless again, a statement game. They were the higher seed, and they're showing why. It was a good team fight from Redbird, but it just wasn't enough. Captain Shrimps with the stopwatch. We just highlighted it, able to keep himself alive. And then the AoE comes back through, and Dinka landing the crit barrel, making the Redbirds do their best G2 impression right there. Just beautiful stuff to see.
Yeah, it seemed, other than that, a little bit of a questionable first blood at the beginning of the game, it was all Dinka from start to finish throughout that entire 30-minute game. Looked like they had firm control, even when, some of the big plays coming through from GSP ended up happening. And at the end of the day, just Dinka coming out with the first win.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, looking at this final fight, just watch for the barrel coming through. He's able to find the combo. Almost one-shots tempos, gets GFP so low as well, forces them in the fountain, and then the trigger is pulled. Now, Drew Dozer finds a pretty good fear right here, but the stopwatch from Captain Shrimps, the Senna standing behind him, means that they're not able to find the damage. No resets for that Jinx. You have to think, if Nuclear was able to find one, it actually might have been a different story, but unfortunately, again, I feel like that was just gold at work. They didn't quite have the items to find the kills, and Dinka never homeless again. They had the items to make that GP barrel do thousands of damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to, it's hard to be considered homeless if you have that much gold in your pockets there. And that was just kind of the story.
Yeah, they could buy themselves a whole mansion with how much they had.
Yeah, exactly. Dinka on that gangplank, of course, doing a whole lot of damage towards the end of that game. And I'm really excited to see how this team progresses moving forward.
Yeah.
Being in the Swiss bracket, they will be playing against another 1-0 team as we head into round 2. And other than that, I'm just really excited to see them going forward. Just taking a look at some of the numbers here at the post game. 30 minutes and 31 seconds was the final game time. The gold, as we said earlier, just steadily crawling in favor of Dinka. And taking a look at the damage, it was the namesake of this team getting that highest damage crown.
Yeah, Dinka doing big damage here on the gangplank, as they say. But and I want to give a lot of credit to ISU too. It felt like they actually played a pretty decent game. I don't think it was anything to be ashamed of. It really just did come down to a lot of those CS numbers, and I think particularly against some of the weaker teams in this bracket with less prolific laners of the likes of Dinka and Captain Shrimps staring them down. If they don't fall quite as far behind in those CS numbers, they actually could have really strong showings because it felt like a lot of their plays were in the right spot. So I'm excited to see this team going forward. But yeah, Dinka, I feel like they answered a lot of the questions that we had coming in. Would they perform to the expectations that have sort of been set up for them? I think, at least so far, that answer is yes, because Redbird was one of the higher seeded teams in the lower half, and they just took care of business.
Yeah, and for Redbird, obviously still not the end of the tournament for them. Obviously, have to continue to play, continue to try and get those wins. Still definitely possibility for them to get into the main stage of this tournament. They're just going to have to start off with that 0-1 record. We're going to take a short break, as that was the end of the first round of this Swiss bracket. When we return, we'll see which matchup we end up taking on, as the rest of the games are still underway. See you in a bit.